Okay, so this video is to show you how to use the Engrave function on Fusion 360. So we're going to start off by coming up with an image. So I've typed in polar bear and outline, and this is what I've gotten. So if you're worried about copyright infringement, this one is a royalty-free vector graphic clip art from iStock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to press snip. And so I'm working on Windows 11, so some of the stuff might be new. So basically the snip is the same. It looks different, but it works the same. So I hit new. Everything kind of grays out. I select the part that I want. It comes up somewhere. And so then what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to save it. So I guess I'm going to go to Save As. I'm going to put it on my desktop. And I'm just going to call it polar bear. Polar bear. You could save it some other location. You'll notice it's a PNG. Okay, at that point I can go to a web browser and I can type in Convertio. You can use any other file converter if you want. You go to Choose File. You're going to look at the desktop and you're going to look for polar bear. So there's my polar bear. I'm opening it. So you need to change it to SVG. So you go under image, you look for SVG. If you think of super very good, that's a good way to remember it. It stands for scalable vector graphic. So once you have your image and you have it set that, then you're just going to hit convert. Now this takes sometimes a little bit while or a little length of time. I don't have a pause button. Oh, we got it already. So we're going to download it, and it's going to be in our downloads, I guess, save. And so up on the top right, you're going to have an option to press your downloads, and you're going to look for this file symbol. So I'm going to go show in folder. And now I have, it says Microsoft Edge HTML, but it's not, or well, it is. But so then I can click on it and I can copy it. So press copy, and then if I want to, I can just put it on my desktop. So I will just paste it on my desktop. So I have over here the one for polar bear and then the SVG. So at that point, we're going to go to Fusion. I'm going to start a new file. So we're going to hit plus to make our shape. To change the settings, because this is going to actually be in inches. So we're going to go to units, we're going to click over, and we're going to change it to inches. And we're not going to set it as default because this is a one-off. We're going to go to rectangle. We're going to go to center rectangle, and we're going to hover. Now this shape is going to be 18 long by 9 wide. This is going to be something that we do beading with. I don't know exactly the dimensions of the next one, but I'm going to click on the center so that it snaps on the center. And for some reason, I believe that it is 5.75 in, I guess we'll call that width. We tab over and it's 7. And so that's going to be the location of our artwork, with the exception of we want to set this line and that line, and we want to have it 3 inches apart. Okay? So at this point, we could kind of finish our sketch. If you want to just, if you're just going to take this part, we could be working with just that part, and we could give it 3/4 of an inch or 0.75. So if we turn our sketches back on, we still have our other aspect, but we're just going to focus in on our main square here. So at this point, we're going to insert our SVG. So we go to Insert SVG. It asks you to find it. So I know that I put mine on the desktop, and I know that it's polar bear, and I'm pretty sure it's that one. It says that it's an SVG file. So then it's asking me what plane. So I'm going to put it on this plane. It comes in upside down for some reason, and it comes in a little bit bigger. And we move it in, and I don't have to have it perfect. You can grab the different aspects to move it. So the little half moon resizes it. This arrow moves it left to right. These flip it upside down. This is a rotational tool, so it can put it on an angle. You can also type in measurements over here, but I'm happy with the location. You can see that it comes in green when you hover over it. So at this point, I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to save it. So I'm looking for a folder. I'm doing it for the Woods teacher. His name is Darwin, and we're going to call it Polar Bear. Polar Bear. And this is like my 4th attempt doing this, so I'm going to hit 4. Okay, so now we've got our object on the background and we've got it saved. So we're going to go to the manufacturing tab. The first thing you might want to do is go to new setup. So if you look around, and I'll just sort of hover around, you'll see that we've got our piece of wood, but we've also got kind of a 1 millimeter boundary on the top and on the sides. So we're not going to clean that surface off. So I think I canceled that. So we're going to go down to stock, and we're going to get rid of this. Now I just learned this little trick right here. If you do a right click in that, okay, that's, so now we're going to edit that sketch. I accidentally closed it, so stock. Apparently if you do a right click in here, or maybe if you type on this, so it's the 3 dots on the side, and it goes save as default, user default. So if you're going to do a lot of those, you could change it and make it your default. I think it's good practice to sort of change it every time. If you look at the setup, this is your origin. It's in the middle of the part. So that actually works out fairly well for us, so that you can just draw lines from the corners and it will be in the center of the object. So I'm happy with the way that sits. You're going to look at the engrave. Okay, so the first thing you might want to do is grab your tool. So I like to use these engraving, so the tutorial tools. So if I go to inches and I'm looking at what kind of shape, I can choose this engraver if I want to. So it's a 1/2 inch 45 engraver, and if I double click on it, it selects it. So then I might want to go back in and do a right click on the object and edit tool. And if you look at the cutter, there's kind of a blunt end on it. And so when you're engraving, that's going to affect what it looks like for sure. So what I want to do is I just want to click in here, and I want to make the point a little bit sharper, for lack of a. So if that worked. Cannot convert from degrees, so I'm gonna get rid of some of this. So I'm gonna go 0.00, I don't know, 5. So what does it say? So it seems to be happy. So I just made it a really small tip. In other words, it's going to be essentially as pointy as a pin. Everything else you can leave. The shaft diameter doesn't matter. The cutting data, for what we're doing, it doesn't matter. The default seems to be about 40 inches per minute, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to accept it. Okay, so now we have a very pointy bit that's got a 45 degree. Okay, so we're done with our tool. As far as I'm concerned, just press select at the bottom. All these things we're not going to worry about. We're going to select our geometry. So this is where we go on the second tab, geometry. I'm just going to select this part, and we'll select this part. Okay, so we've got some geometry. We're going to go to this part, and we're going to keep it at default just to see what happens. And then these next 2 tabs is the tolerances and the degrees, and this is not necessarily important. So we're probably going to have to change this. So this is saying that it's top of contour. We could change it to top of stock, and we could change this to top of stock. So that way at least we know what we're doing, and from here we can think, okay, how deep do we want to go? And I want to go like down maybe 2 millimeters. We could try different heights. So retract is basically how high it's going to go when it retracts. Top of stock, this is going to be retract height. So these are basically traveling heights. This is, well, feed height, so it's 5 millimeters above. We could change these all to top of stock if we wanted to, but we're going to try and see if that works. So once we have this, then we can press the simulate action, and we have some speeds down here that we can change. There's also a box that you might need to have checked off, and that's show your stock. And then when we click play, it will go in and cut, and you can zoom in on it and sort of see what was the result of your cut. So you can sort of see that it wasn't like super deep or anything, but you can see the outline of the bear, and it looked pretty good. So we could go back, exit simulation, and then you can go into right click on Engrave, and you can edit your tool path at this point. So we didn't select all the geometry, so now we can zoom in and try to select more of the geometry. And if you click the background, then sometimes you can just click it twice and basically it'll select it and unselect it. You don't have to select all of them, but you can select all of them. Okay, so we've got all the geometry selected. If you click OK and it gives you a check mark over here, that's very good. You can turn it on and off. We're going to simulate it again. So you can change the angle at which you're doing things. If you've moved it, then you might want to select. I got kicked out of it. So simulate, you can choose it from up here. So we're going to try here. I'm going to maybe slow it down a bit. So it's coming in and it's cutting our work. Now the thicker the line, or the further the lines are apart, the deeper it's going to go. So even though we said it should go down 2 mils, it's actually going to be dependent on whether or not the lines are further apart. So it's almost like you're pressing the pen harder or less hard depending on what you want for an image. Okay, so if you're doing this for an assignment, you're going to basically take a screenshot of what you've done. If you wanted to, you could show me a video of your tool path, but screenshot of what you've done is fine. And then you could submit it to me. If you want to speed it up, you can use these things. If you want it to go in reverse, you can use those things. Okay, so at this point we're done. You can take a look around, I think, and sort of zoom in and sort of inspect what was good and what was bad. You can change and play with your different settings. You can try a different cutter. You can try different angles, but I think that looks pretty good. You can look at it from above and sort of get an idea. So typically what you would do is you'd paint your piece of wood, you'd come in, you'd cut it, and so then you'd have a contrasting color. So the bare outline would come in as different color as the background. Anyways, good luck with this and have fun doing it.